Coming up, Soyuz launch.
The Apollo launch pad gets a new update.
And I interview Libby Doodle.
Stay tuned. Tomorrow begins right now.
Welcome to Tomorrow. I'm your host for this particular segment, Carrie Ann Higginbotham, and with me, or joining me later, will be Benjamin Higginbotham for space news, as well as some comments and questions from last week's show. But before we get started, I want to make sure that we give a huge thank you to our Patreon Premier subscribers. These are the people who have given us $10 or more to this particular segment, and it just really, really sincerely means very, very so much for me. We are a crowd-funded show, and all of these people have just really have shown how much they believe in us, which means very, very much to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And for more information or to give some money to us, I suppose you can hit patreon.com/TMRO. Okay, so today we have an awesome interview. I will be doing the interview with Libby Norcross, also known as Libby Doodle. Welcome to the show, Libby.
Hello, thank you.
How are you, by the way?
I am fantastic. It has been a really busy week here at Challenger Learning Center.
So awesome. Okay, so one of the reasons that we have you on the show, of course, is all of your work that you have been doing at the Challenger Centers. Can you tell us a little bit what the Challenger Centers are and what you do there?
Absolutely. I love to talk about it. I work at an educational space simulator called the Challenger Learning Center. Challenger Center was founded by the family members of the astronauts who perished in the 1986 Challenger space shuttle disaster. Among the crew was the first teacher to be chosen to go to space, Krista McAuliffe. And so when the shuttle was lost, the families decided to remember the crew in a special way. So instead of just building a statue or making a plaque, they built educational learning centers to continue the educational mission of this crew. So there are about 45 of these around the world right now. I work at one in Normal, Illinois, and we get to continue the legacy of the crew in a whole variety of ways: science summer camps, public outreach events, corporate team building programs. But the bread and butter of what we do is the simulated space mission for middle school kids. Do you want me to describe that space mission now?
Yes, please. That sounds awesome, and I wish I was a middle school kid.
Oh, well, we do programs for adults too, so if you're ever in the area, come for one of those. So the simulated space mission is really fun. A teacher of students in 5th through 8th grade would come to Challenger Center. They would pick a date for their field trip, and then we would provide them with curriculum to train their students for this mission. It's lined up with our Illinois State Learning Standards. It's lining up with Common Core and Next Generation Science Standards. So it's good curriculum to use. And when the teacher brings it back to the classroom, the kids in their class they actually apply for, with a little job application, specific team roles for their mission, maybe a medical team or a life support team, a navigation team, things like that.
Awesome.
And once the students are assigned to their roles, then they spend a couple weeks in the classroom training for their specific job. And then the day of their field trip arrives, and the students come to the Challenger Center, and 2 flight directors, such as myself, wearing NASA flight suits or jackets. This is my jacket. They have to call me Commander Libby, which is always great. We lead the students on a 2.5-hour simulated space mission experience. So we would give them a mission briefing in our briefing room, and then half of the students go to mission control. We have banks of white computers, just like the kind of retro Johnson Space Center mission control.
Nice.
And we have the other half of the students ride our spaceship up to our space station, where we have computers and science experiments all set around, and each team has a booklet with specific tasks that they need to work through during the mission. Teams communicate with their partners and with each other. There are emergencies, maybe an air pressure emergency or an oxygen emergency. And if they are communicating well and working together well and completing their tasks, then at the end of their mission it culminates in some exciting event like landing on Mars or launching a probe. And then my favorite part really is at the end, when we get to gather all the students together and then say, look what you did, and keep learning and think about what you can do and find what you are passionate about and pursue it. Because Challenger Center, we want to encourage them in math, we want to encourage them in science, but our point is not that you have to become an engineer. It's that you can do whatever you want to do if you are passionate about it and you work for it. So that's the field trip.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Way
It's
better
so
than
fun.
like the museum field trips that I went on as a kid, where it was sort of like, I don't know, tool around, see some stuff, come back to us. So one of the points that you made that I kind of want to touch on is talking about how, doing what you love. And it is my understanding that you didn't always have this grand love for space. That you sort of came into it, almost fell into it. Is that correct? Can you tell me a little bit how you discovered that and why space sort of captivates you in the way that it does?
Oh, I sure can. So back in 5th grade, we did a unit in school on the solar system. And I loved the planets because I thought they were so bizarre. Jupiter, like, weirded me out. And Saturn's rings being made of, like, pieces of ice and rock, that was just so crazy to me. And we had a, like, 1995 Compton's Encyclopedia on, CD-ROM set that had a game where you were supposed to search for constellations and astronomical objects. And so for, like, that year, I was completely obsessed with that. And then 5th grade ended and that was it. Space was dormant. I liked science, I liked art, I liked a lot of math. When I applied for college, I wrote in my essays that I was going to design my own jewelry and start a jewelry business. And as I progressed through college, I discovered that I loved math, teaching, and learning, so I thought I was going to become a math major. Then I thought I was going to be a chemistry major. Then I graduated with my bachelor's degree in education, of all things.
Nice.
And when I graduated from college, the state school district was not in an awesome time. So there really weren't that many teaching jobs available to me in my area. So I had been working on campus at this community college for several years. So I would get the emails that came through that said, we need a new dean of nursing, we need a new accountant. So an email came in one day that said, we need flight directors. And I thought, when do we get an airport? So I opened that up and it said, you need to love science and technology, you needed to love working with students and have an education degree. It looked like me on paper.
Nice.
So I applied for the job, had no idea what I was getting into. I just thought, space simulator, that'd be cool. The funny thing is that I like to tell people is that I didn't actually want the job when they offered it to me. I had my heart set on something else, but all of the wise people in my life said, you know what, taking this job is going to be good for you. Pay off your student loans and all these other things, and we really think that you're going to enjoy it. So I was bawling the day that I made the phone call to accept this job, which is so kind of ironic looking back at it, because taking this job was like opening Pandora's box. I mean, seeing students working in the simulators was fun. I visited some space museums, and that childhood love of things that were weird and wonderful just clicked back on. Like, it had been waiting all along to come back into my life. And so I got to learn more about the wildness of space and human space flight. And then the magic of social media really kicked up my love of space, because through NASA events at the time they were called NASA tweet-ups, they were for their social media followers to get together, network, and enjoy behind the scenes of the space program. Getting hooked into that community gave me so many resources so quickly that I was just flooded, and my love of space could just grow and grow and grow, pretty much unbounded. And so that's kind of how I came to be the complete space freak that I am now.
Aren't we all, though? I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. Because I also I don't have a similar background in the same way that you do, although I didn't necessarily have a grand love for space until a little bit later on in my life as well. So I completely relate in every single way. And then your moniker, Libby Doodle, has... I've heard the history of it, but it's interesting to me that you still have this sort of... I guess my point is that a lot of women are looked at in the math and science and engineering sort of backgrounds, or where they're in their workplace, as not necessarily having an artsy sort of bend to it. Does that make sense? But I love that you still continue to doodle, as you like to say, and you draw, and you have all these inspirational quotes and pictures and all this beautiful stuff that sort of comes out that I think traditionally people don't think of, like I said, people in the sort of STEM realm of kind of having and fostering, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, it's very much a part of who I am to be artistic. And when you think about it, math and science are like learning another language. Art is like learning another language. It activates, different parts of your brain that you need to use. And last summer, one of the summer camps we ran here at Challenger Center was called Rocket Girls. It was for middle school girls only. And we were able to have visits from NASA engineers. We Skyped with some women who work at NASA, all of these women, and each one of them, without knowing what the other had said, expressed, I do this, but I also am a dancer, or I also am a painter, or I also play music. All of them are like that. And really looking at educating girls in particular in STEM, making it creative and relevant is very important for getting girls hooked in, because we use all these parts of our brains. And I think the more of your brain you use for things like that, the more effective you'll be in all the areas. I mean, creative STEM thinkers don't only look at numbers all day. They're creative in their lives. So yeah, that's me too.
Totally. Oh, I love it. That's so awesome. Which actually, you kind of already answered it, but we had a couple of questions that came in via our social media means. One came on Twitter from a Lisa Stoich, I believe was, because her last name is Lisa Stojanovsky. She says, Libby, I'm passionate about inspiring girls to pursue STEM careers. What are some ways I can help kids get interested in STEM/space?
Oh, yeah, I love that. And I love that you're passionate about reaching girls in particular. The NASA has what they call an educational pyramid, and at the bottom is inspiring, and then there's you move up towards educating and training for the workforce. And so Challenger Learning Center, what I do, falls into the bottom of the pyramid, inspiring. So just hooking kids in the first place, showing them how awesome it is, showing them that it's something that they can do and relate to is very important. When you're excited about it, kids are excited about it.
Totally.
And just for girls, making it relevant, making it creative. In our Rocket Girls camp, we did some heavy engineering things. We did some art space related projects. We did a lot of tinkering so that girls could create things that were meaningful to them and still explore processes of electronics and things like that we were using. And so those are the kinds of activities that I'd recommend for you as well. And I love that you're excited about that. More power to you.
That's so awesome. Our next question comes from Blake A23. Says, are students interested in space science or building space companies, educating entrepreneur space women?
Ooh. Well, since we're at the bottom of that educational pyramid, mostly we get the kids who are maybe don't know a lot about space, or they're interested, and so we get to expose them to the space world and then hook them in and say, look, there's all these different things you could do. You could be an astronaut, but you could be a spacesuit technician, or you could, train XYZ, or build your own space industry. As far as private industry, I think that's something that hasn't trickled down as much yet to the elementary schools. When kids do learn about business or entrepreneurial things, it's when they're a little bit older and the connection to space is not always made. But I love the idea of bringing more awareness of that into kids. We get to bring awareness of those things to kids, like, for example, exoplanets, a concept that hasn't trickled down to a lot of elementary kids.
For sure.
And one of the first activities that I created here 4.5 years ago when I started was an exoplanet activity. And so I am often the first person to tell these kids that there are thousands, billions, gajillions of other planets in our solar system. And so exposing kids at a young age, I think there are a lot of kids who their brains work kind of entrepreneurially who would love that, but I think it's going to be important for us to keep making the connections and showing them that that's an option.
That's so awesome. I love it. I love it. And you do so many different things. It's you overwhelm me in all of your spaciness, honestly. But so where can people find out more things about you, follow you, all of those sorts of things?
So me in particular, I'm very active on Twitter at Libby Doodle, and on Instagram at Libby Doodle. I have an Etsy shop online where I sell art called Libby Doodle. My webpage, libbydoodle.com, is kind of in transition right now. As far as learning more about Challenger Learning Center, the national organization website is challenger.org, and our personal webpage for our local site is challengerlearningcenter.com. We got a good domain for that. So if you're interested in learning more about Challenger, or donating, or getting involved in programs, or volunteering at your local Challenger Center, hit one of those Challenger websites. If you want to know more about me or ask me questions, Twitter is probably your best bet.
That's so awesome. Yay, I'm so excited. So what's the next thing on the horizon for you? What are you doing next?
Oh, so much. In a couple weeks, I am attending TED Active in Whistler, Canada.
Ooh.
I know. I was honored to be the artist in residence for a TEDx event in Mountain View, California last summer. And so that is going to probably be my next big adventure. I'm also presenting at the National Science Teachers Association annual conference in Chicago about educating girls in STEM. And I am at 777 career missions flown so far at Challenger Center. So I'm marching on towards 1,000 because there's a special patch you get for 1,000. So that's what's up for me. I
love it. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. And hopefully, that's just a silly word. At this point, I know that you have inspired a number of people to get involved in any way that they feel like they can or want to. And I admire that about you. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Of course. I can't talk. Keep with us. We're going to take a small break. And when we come back, we're going to be doing some space news.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. Through the heat, keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
Welcome back to Tomorrow. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham, still joined by Carrie Ann, and we're going to take a look at some space news. But before we do that, a huge shout out to all of the patrons of Tomorrow who've helped to make this episode happen. These are the people who've contributed at least $5 to this specific episode. You can find more information on how you can help crowdfund this show over at patreon.com/TMRO. We are a crowdfunded show. Every single dollar helps. All right, let's get started with some space news. We actually had a Soyuz launch of the Bars-M satellite. This happened February 27th at 11:01 UTC. Now, this was a military launch, so I've actually been unable to find any live video of it. So there's a pretty shot. I'm pretty sure that's of the actual launch itself. And there's actually a second shot from much further away. I really like the second shot as well. Look at that. It's just the Soyuz launch. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. This was the 53rd flight of the Soyuz 2 and the 29th for the 2-1A and STA configurations. The Bars-M satellite, this is the first one of those. This is, like I said, a military satellite. It's a recon satellite. And here's the thing that I found absolutely interesting. This replaces their old school satellites. The old school one were called Yantar. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. YANTAR. Those were film return satellites. That means, it's exactly what you think it is. It had film canisters. Okay. It had film canisters on it. They would they would shoot on film, decommission the satellite in less than a year, and then pick up the film and look at the recon on the film. What? I know. Those were in use between 1981 and 2005. Seriously? Yes. I'm sorry. I know. What? I know. I had no idea until researching the story. It was like, so obviously this is all digital. Why isn't it just still film? I don't understand. I know, right? We've been doing film forever. It'll be in a sun-synchronous orbit, and it's designed to last about 5 years. So a little bit better than the current film systems. How awesome is that? So like I said, military launch, that happened February 27th. Other cool things that are happening. Space Mike, tell us about Slick 39A.
A very cool quick update for SLC-39A, and that's the same pad that launched some of the early Apollo missions and then a lot of the space shuttle missions, where the first and last space shuttle missions took place. SpaceX is having a 20-year lease for that pad, and they just broke ground last week on a new hangar where the Falcon 9s are going to be assembled, as well as the Falcon Heavies. Now, something about this hangar is they're going to be installing a rail system to be able to transport the rockets horizontally, and then they would be raised vertically. However, once they get to the pad, they're going to be building capabilities to be able to integrate the payloads and payload shroud fairing vertically, and that is a requirement in order to launch some of the satellites for the Air Force. So that's a very cool thing, and here's a live shot of what the progress looks like so far after they've laid the foundation and just putting up the framework for that or that hangar there. So that's a pretty cool update over at Cape Canaveral.
That is so not live. That is a shot. I wish we had live cam sitting down there. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
But that is not a live shot. That is a shot. That is definitely a shot.
It's a recent shot. It's just not.
It's not live. Well, that would be really cool. A slick 30. Oh, you know, I don't think we said what a slick was. SLC, Space Launch Complex. So in the United States, all the different launch complexes are called SLICs. Space Launch Complex, SLC. All right, moving right along.
So. Leaking spacesuit.
Again.
I'm so sick of these stories, honestly.
Well, it's only the second one, really.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
No, it's not. So this is astronaut Terry Virts on a International Space Station spacewalk, as it were. It was a 6-hour and 34-minute spacewalk, and there had been water in the helmet.
Again,
but although thankfully this particular time the water wasn't even noticed until he was in the airlock, which happens to be inside the airlock. There's actually a procedure that they do where they keep the pressure at 5 pounds per square inch in a routine post-spacewalk leak check, and that's when the water was noticed. It wasn't a whole lot. It was said to be about 3 inches in diameter or so, and the HAP, the helmet absorption pad at the very back there, was wet but not soaked, which is good. So in other words, astronauts were not in any danger. This particular astronaut was not in any danger. This particular suit...
Wait, they say that, but all it takes is that glob of water to move around like this and cover your mouth and nose,
yes.
and now you're in danger.
Yes, but not like immediate, I'm going to choke to death danger. Yes. Plus, he was in the airlock when he found it.
Right, so being in the airlock does change it because you could, but you know, even a small, the things that I think people forget, even a small amount of water, it can be very deadly in space because there's no, a tablespoon.
Yeah,
I should read
is what it is. So this particular suit is serial number 3005, and it had a similar incident in December of 2013, which followed up the previous incident, the really big bad one, which was July of 2013. This is at least the third time. Not this particular suit, but at least the third time that we've had a water in the spacesuit incident.
Right.
I believe it's actually the fourth.
Whoa.
Exactly.
I had no idea. I knew it happened at least the one other time.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this particular walk is of interest because it's a walk that's one of many for about 900 crew hours, give or take, where they're reconfiguring some of the International Space Station, preparing for the coming and going of Boeing's CST-100 and SpaceX's Dragon capsule to be able to dock with
the new crew ferry, the commercial crew ferry systems.
Yeah, to be able to dock with the International Space Station. So that's why we're even doing all of these walks in the first place, and why it's very important that we continue to do all of these walks,
right.
To be able to reconfigure all of these different things, and why water in the spacesuit is very, very, very bad.
That's true, absolutely. So hopefully we'll get that worked out. I know that we sent one of the spacesuits back down, the one that had the really critical issue.
Yeah.
Sent it back down. I don't remember if we sent it back up yet, but I know that we were at least doing analysis on that. I feel like it actually recently went back to the space station.
It might have.
So, all right, moving right along. Speaking of the space station, Russia is looking to extend the ISS operations to 2024, which was an extension that we kind of all generally agreed upon before. But the United States wants to bring it to 2028. And Russia's like, no, not only do we not really want to go to 2028, we want our sections back. We're going to be, which would essentially dismantle the ISS. Russia wants to build their own space station in 2028, after 2024 at least, sorry, not in 2028. So they want to build their own space station, and they want to remove their sections of the space station to create the foundation of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so now, the U.S., no one had agreed to go to 2028 yet, right? So the U.S. has kind of floated the idea out there. I know.
I love you.
It was, kind of the murmurings are, well, JAXA might agree to it,
right?
But it's irrelevant. If Russia takes their segments back, they're kind of the core pieces that hold it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it's... Now, we might be able to figure something out where if by 2024 SLS is flying, maybe we can fly up replacement segments.
Right.
No one's talking about that. That's just me saying,
well, actually,
hey.
in researching my particular story, because I was wondering why we were doing this spacewalk in the first place,
yeah.
I found out that Bigelow Aerospace, which you also have as a note in yours, Bigelow Aerospace is supposed to be having one of their inflatable modules come up within the next, I think it was 2 years, in order to be attached to the International Space Station, sort of to make sure that it can and how it fares and all of that other fun stuff. So I guess theoretically, if that goes well, Russia could kind of break off. Bigelow could just attach and attach and attach and
well,
attach.
kind of. Russia has one of the core
thing?
segments in the middle that basically holds everything together.
Gotcha.
The Bigelow station wouldn't be able to replace that,
right.
At least not to the best of my knowledge, but we could figure that out. Regardless, the general murmurings are this is the last space station that the United States is going to build. Moving forward, much like we're moving commercial space for taxi transport of humans up to low Earth orbit, we'll likely move to commercial companies for space stations, such as Bigelow, right? So instead of having the U.S. government build the next space station, Bigelow will just fly one of their ginormous modules.
Ginormous.
Well, they are. They're absolutely huge.
They are.
And I feel like one module is nearly the usable volume as the entire space station.
Something like that.
It's not quite that, but it's something around those words. So these things are huge. And anyhow, yeah. So by that time, we may be able to fly them on some of our heavier, super heavy lift rockets that will hopefully be out.
That'd be really cool.
Then. All right, let's send it back over to Space Mike for SMAP.
Before I wanted to talk about SMAP, I did want to mention that the Zarya module, the first module of the Russian segment of the ISS, is actually owned by the U.S. government and NASA. Not only do we pay for the module, but we paid for the launch. So Russia could go ahead and disconnect all of their other segments, Zvezda, Pierce, Poisk, and their Naka, which they haven't even launched yet. But the core module, which is responsible for a lot of the life support, is owned by the U.S. government. So if Russia wants to take the rest, that's fine. But we get to keep that module because we own it, and further expansion could be done from there. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that real quick.
Yeah, good call. And actually, I did not know that, and I wonder if that would actually become an issue in the future, where they're like, well, we don't care if you're leasing it, not owning it. I wonder if there's any weird verbiage there that could become a political problem. But yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully that it doesn't matter, and even if they take the Russian modules off, we'll just put an airlock on it and call it a day.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the Soil Moisture Active Passive Satellite, which was launched back in January by a Delta II rocket, has finally unfurled a huge diameter, 19.7-foot diameter, ring, unbreakable, rotating antenna. And what this is it's a reflector to be able to help to collect the data that they need for finding out all the different soil moisture that's both active and passive over the globe. And this is going to be a huge boon to all sorts of weather forecasters, people who are in the agriculture business and need to know different information, especially near certain areas that might have nuclear or other sort of particulates that might be able to affect their crops. And this data is going to be much more, how should I say it? It's going to have a lot more data than we've previously been able to have, and a lot more accurate readings than we've been able to have. So this is a very cool thing for this satellite, that it's going to be doing really good science. And it's always difficult to have something that's moving. And I forgot to mention, this reflector is going to be spinning at 14.6 revolutions per minute. So it's always scary to have moving parts in space.
Yeah, that's crazy pants.
Yeah, it is.
That's
It's going to be awesome.
That's total crazy pants.
Well, it's extended now. It's unfurled at this point.
Yeah,
right.
There's no going back.
There's no going back.
Oh my goodness, crazy pants. Moving right along, sadly there is no good segue for this in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, there's a good segue here.
No.
Well, hang on, I got it.
Yeah?
So, having the thing spinning in space is
around.
absolutely
Yep.
it's difficult to do.
Yes.
And it might be inspiring, right? You might go, oh, wow, I never thought of that.
Yes.
I would love to solve types of problems like this in aerospace. But where can I go? How can I solve these problems?
So glad you asked that question, Benjamin.
Wow, that's my segue.
That was really good, actually. Virgin Galactic is having a job fair.
You all were wondering what we were going to.
Launcher One has found a new home base in Long Beach, California, and they are holding an open house. Launcher One, for those of you who don't know, is an orbital launch vehicle dedicated to the small satellite market. It is a two-stage rocket of composite structure, of LOX RP-1 liquid-fueled engines, and under $10 million you can launch 225 kilograms, which is about 500 pounds, into low Earth orbit, or 120 kilograms, which is 265 pounds, into a sun-synchronous orbit. So, should that strike your fancy?
I'm fancied. Boy, howdy. I've got enough moxie for that.
Virgin Galactic is holding not just a ribbon cutting on their brand new building, which is really cool. And my understanding is actually it's an old Boeing building. But Saturday, March 7th, which is this coming Saturday, they will be doing the ribbon cutting from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then promptly afterwards, they are holding a job fair from 9 a.m. until noon.
Which is just enough time for you to go through the job fair, go home, and then watch the next episode of tomorrow.
There you go.
It's gonna be awesome.
It will be held in Long Beach. I'm sure we can have a connection link somewhere. They are hiring engineers, technicians, business support staff, and, quote, other fields.
So pretty much anything. Wonder if
you
they
could
have
be a space janitor is kind of what I'm thinking.
Or a farmer. They may need a farmer as well.
You never know.
There's always that.
Or barista.
Or a barista.
There's lots of those as well.
All right,
More information on virgingalactic.com.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, comments from our last week's show. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tomorrow. Now, before we get into comments, I wanted to give a huge shout out to the people who have made this show possible. These are our Patreon subscribers. You're looking at the Patreon Plus subscribers on the screen right now. These are people who have contributed $2.50 or more. They're also going to have access to After Dark right away. There's no delay for those particular subscribers. Oh, but wait, there's more. We also have our Patreon subscribers at 1 penny. 1 penny per episode, up to $2.49. You can get your name in the show and a couple other perks as well. To figure out how you can help support this show, head over to patreon.com/TMRO. We are a crowdfunded show. Every single dollar helps. We are made by you.
Every single penny helps.
Every single penny helps. There you go. Absolutely. Actually, I was reading the chat when we talked about beforehand whether we should talk about Leonard Nimoy.
Yes.
And we're Star Trek fans, right? Star Trek is one of those inspirational shows that's more than just, Space Mike doing the Vulcan. Well, yeah. Oh, both hands. All right. So we weren't sure what to say that hasn't already been said. So we're very sad in his passing. We loved what he did with Star Trek, and we loved what Star Trek symbolized from a betterment of humanity standpoint. And that's kind of what we're trying to achieve
Well, and
here.
that's sort of what Spock's character was all about, right? Was being able to see humanity through an alien's eyes.
Sort of. I mean, we could do an entire show on this, right?
We
but
could.
It's also about how you have to have emotion and not just pure logic, because one without the other leads to a Vulcan, essentially. So
leads to volcanism.
So we are very sad in his passing. You can find more information all over the Googles and the Twitters and the social medias. But we did just want to mention that he will be missed. So all right, let's go ahead. On that upbeat note, let's go ahead and get started with some comments from this last week's show.
This first comment, assuming I can read it through these tiers, comes from Novateco. It says, Mars One has always had a credibility problem. Their lander could have addressed that. Now they look like an exercise in studies.
Yeah, so Mars is hard. We've said that a lot, right? It's very expensive. Yeah. It's something that humanity has never done before. We've put robots on Mars. We do not know how to put ourselves on Mars.
And one of the last robots that we put on Mars was a success, a grouping of success of a bunch of crazy ideas.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
it was.
So given that, then it seems to me that granted, you can't have humans bouncing around in a great big ball, and you can't have humans,
Kind of want to do that though.
Right, but my point is that it took a bunch of crazy ideas just to get a freaking robot on Mars.
Right.
It could take some other crazy ideas in order to get humans on Mars.
Right. So, while the story is that Mars One has canceled their whatever, and that's kind of what a lot of people are saying, Mars One has not said that. They haven't said that. They just haven't ordered it yet, and they still have a little bit more time before they can order it and still make that deadline. So we're going to wait and see.
And deadlines can be fungible. I mean, you want to make sure that it's done right.
Fungible?
What am I? No, that's not what the word I want, is it? Deadlines can be pushed back, is my point.
Sure. So, yes. So, all right. We'll see. I have skeptic optimism in Mars One.
Yes.
And I have skeptic optimism in Mars One with this lander. If they can get that lander down, that will show that they at least have the funding to do that and have figured some of this stuff out. That doesn't mean they can get humans on Mars, but I will feel a lot more comfortable about Mars One once they're able to figure out the lander side of it. If they can't figure out the lander on time, or at least within a year of being on time,
right.
I think they're going to be beat to Mars, in my personal opinion. All right, next up.
All right, comes from R. Banfi. Says, tomorrow, is your Roku player app broken?
Yep, very badly. So if you're trying to watch it on Roku, the app will not load. We actually submitted a app revision at the end of last year, I believe it was, and it still has not been approved. And we are working with them trying to get it approved, and it is a slightly aggravating process. So hopefully soon, you will have your Roku channel back. Now, I would like to ask the community how badly you want the Roku channel, because I'm at my wit's end. So if I were to pull the Roku channel completely, how bad of a thing would that actually be? Just curious, right? How many people would that actually impact? So leave your comments on Twitter. If I pulled it, would you be willing to move over to YouTube or find it in some other way? So there you go.
All right, fair enough. Lindstrom Ian says, imagine growing up in space. How do concepts of everyday living like society, architecture, and travel change? Having my mind blown by tomorrow.
And I'm going to blow your mind even further. There is an incredible article about artificial intelligence and the future of humanity. This is the website. This is waitbutwhy.com.
Which is amazing just in and of itself.
Yep. This is a long article. This is worth every minute, and every word is amazing. Also, click on every one of the little blue circles and squares, because there is a lot of just hilarious and amazing information in there.
Talk about down the rabbit hole.
This single article has, I used to believe, there's no real proof of other intelligent life in the universe. We haven't seen any proof. But you look at the sheer size of the universe, and you go, there must be something, right? We're not the only intelligent life out there. Just by, what am I trying to say? The chances of there not being anything else out there is very slim. This article has made me question that, and I now am. I haven't decided yet. I'm still mulling it through, but I no longer believe that is the foremost case. It is very possible we are the only intelligent life out there, or there's a reset button on intelligent life that we're about to hit or haven't hit yet. So
it's very Battlestar Galactica.
A little bit Battlestar Galactica. This is mind-blowing stuff. Whether you agree with it or not, cool. Worth the read. Absolutely worth the read. Wait, but why? This is Artificial Intelligence Revolution. It's a 2-part series. Both parts are amazing. So there you go. All right, next up.
From YouTube, Bruce McKean says, as a veteran of the Deep Seabed Mining Code, Law of the Sea Treaty, negotiations, I really enjoyed Dr. Newman's passion with balance explanation of a similar challenge. Big spaces, no ownership, potential for mischief, lure of possible profit. I also suspect he is a great professor.
I love that interview. When you get someone on, he was kind of it was a last minute thing. Like, he was tweeting back and forth. I'm like, you actually seem to know your stuff. I'm going to invite you on the show. You never know how that's going to fare.
That could end very badly.
It could end very badly. In our case, it ended extremely well. I was very impressed. And that was one of my favorite interviews of the year. and it was somewhat inspiring, I think.
Yeah.
And on a topic that should have been boring.
Right.
Right? That was the weird thing, is he brought this passion and excitement to a topic that you normally are like, oh, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to deal with that. But it's stuff that you do have to think about now before we're out there.
Yes.
And figure it out in advance. So yeah, that was one of my favorite shows of the year thus far.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
All right.
Also from YouTube comes Anthony Calerio. I can't find After Dark episodes. Feeling pretty stupid right now.
Anthony, that is not your fault. That is completely and totally my fault. The reason you cannot find After Dark episodes is we no longer post them directly to our channel. We actually created, it's just too dark for this channel. We moved them to another channel called, aptly, After Dark. So if you go to youtube.com/TMRO, somewhere on one of the sidebars are all of the other channels we have. One is Launch Library, which we need to do some stuff with. The other one is After Dark, and we are posting those episodes over there. Now, we do have some other stuff we're going to do. We'll talk about that in a couple comments. So, moving on. You have to watch till the end of the show.
Fine. YouTube comes a comment from Voltsus.
Voldemort. Yep.
Yes, sure. Not necessarily related to the topic, but how about promoting some space-related music? You guys should have listened to the album The Race for Space by Public Service Broadcasting, and if you like it, tell people about it.
Yeah, actually, I thought it was kind of neat, and there's a song in there called Tomorrow.
There is.
I enjoyed that.
So there is.
I enjoyed that. It was halfway decent. It wasn't. It didn't blow my mind, but it wasn't terrible. So
a lot of it is atmospheric. It's a little bit on the sort of electronic. Some of it's dance, a little bit on right. But it is all space related or space themed.
And using actual space sound bites.
Yes. Yeah. There's a song called Gagarin, and they're talking about. Yeah, sound bites exactly is great. Anyhow,
so if you want to get in a spacey mood, or if you're hosting a Yuri's Night 2015 party and you need some space music, there you go.
PublicServiceBroadcasting.net.
All right, and finally,
from Fabio Milan, coming from YouTube,
a common commenter. So thank you for having valuable feedback for the show.
Says, question. Why don't you let Space Mike handle all the launch coverages and not just SpaceX?
So we actually do. So SpaceX, he does more than just launch coverage for SpaceX. Like for example, today he did Slick 39A coverage, which is not a launch. Anything
we'll be launching from there.
Yeah. Anything SpaceX related, Space Mike has to take care of. And even today, we break it up evenly, right? So it's the same amount of stories for the three of us, essentially, is how that gets broken down. And that's why he doesn't end up doing all the launch coverage, because sometimes I'll do it, sometimes she'll do it. Whatever ends up breaking up evenly. However, and Space Mike doesn't know I'm announcing this, but we are going to trial run bringing Space Pods back using Space Mike. So the initial run is, did you want to tell him, Space Mike?
Yeah. The initial run is going to be going for...
You have to cut to him, Dada.
Can you guys hear me?
There you go.
Testing.
There you go.
All right, go.
Go.
So, for this month of March, upcoming month of March, we're going to be bringing back Space Pods, and we're going to be having 2 Space Pods per week, and it's going to be very exciting. There are so many topics out there to discuss, and so many things that have had ripple effects. For example, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the whole Russian war with Ukraine, and all the effects that that's having with just about every single spacefaring nation. So, there is lots of stuff to talk about that we just can't cover all the time in our live shows. So I think that it'll be a great supplement to have the Space Pods come back and talk about all sorts of really cool things, and not just about SpaceX.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. And so for those who don't know, the Space Pods are those shorter form content. It's not going to be an hour long. It's 5 minutes or less. So it's really easy to digest. Get a little bit of your space geekery news in there a couple times per week. And then we'll see how it goes. There's actually a post we have over on Patreon if you're a subscriber talking about this a little bit and seeing how we want to fund these moving forward in the future. So we're still trying to figure a lot of stuff out. We're trial running it for March. I'd love your comment and feedback on every episode. See what you like, see what you don't like, see how you want to fund it, because these do cost money. These do take time and money to produce. So how we want to fund it and what you think is fair, how we should move forward with it. So I'm really excited about that, Space Mike. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is.
That's our show for this week. I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching. Stay tuned. After Dark is up next. We'll see you in a week.